This video is about to get very surgical, so stay with me. But this is part 2 to I Deserve It All. And over in part 1, we talked about Kendrick Lamar and his self-worth. How he feels about himself and how at one point he didn't feel worthy of the achievements, the accomplishments because of his survivor's guilt. Because of the fact that he was living a life in one way, but the people at home were living a totally different life. I decided to do part 2 after the Grammys because it further adds to my point of what I was talking about in the first place. So what we're going to do now is talk about Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, where Kendrick Lamar starts to discover why he doesn't feel worthy. Then we're going to talk about GNX, where Kendrick Lamar, we'll talk about it. So Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, in my opinion, is Kendrick Lamar's most important album. And when I say most important album, I'm not saying in the concept of how it's received by people or whatever. But for him, it's impossible for us to get this GNX version of Kendrick Lamar without first going through Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. And I'll explain why. This album was essentially Kendrick Lamar stripping himself down to the bone and recognizing, where does my lack of self-worth come from? Why do I feel survivor's guilt? Why do I feel responsible for other people's actions? Other people make mistakes and I blame myself. Where is this coming from? And Kendrick Lamar has an interview where he talks about he doesn't really understand where it comes from. He thinks it's just because that's how he's raised. No, Kendrick Lamar, it's not just because of how you were raised. It's because of that plays a part, but it's because of the experiences that you went through that caused you to be this way. And the fact that you don't feel worthy as a human being because of A, B, and C, and D. And those things, the A, B, and C, and D, he got to him on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by going to therapy, by being honest, being vulnerable, something that Kendrick Lamar struggled with outside of creating music. He said it himself, especially if you listen to The Heart Part 6. He struggled with being vulnerable in his real life. The fact that he hadn't cried in years before he went and got that the torch passed to him by Snoop Dogg, if y'all know what I'm talking about, says a lot, bruh. It says a lot where he was emotionally. But this album, specifically songs like Father Time directly addresses this lack of vulnerability. It directly addresses this need to be macho, this need to get up off the ground and dust yourself off without really paying attention to how you really feel. That translates later into going through things and not processing them. Telling your son, hey, you don't brush it off, get up off the ground, you good. You carry that into your adulthood, and now when you go through things, you're not processing anything. And then we got songs like Auntie's Diaries. We got songs like Mother I Sober, Mirror, Savior, where Kendrick Lamar is coming to terms with a lot of different things. For example, Family Ties. They accused my cousin. Did he touch you, Kendrick? Never lied, but no one believed me when I said he didn't. Frozen Moments, still holding on it, hard to trust myself. I started rhyming coping mechanisms to lift up myself. And essentially right here, this is where Kendrick officially starts to question his own mind. He starts to question his own intuition and his own thought and his own feelings, because the people in his family are projecting their trauma onto him. And because they're projecting their trauma onto him, he's now picking up all of these things and applying them to himself when they don't apply to him, because these things haven't happened to him. Now I'm going to point out one more song, because if I don't, we're going to be attacking this album all day. I love this album. But Savior is an extremely important song, because this is where Kendrick finally understands it's not your responsibility to save the world. It's not. As a matter of fact, you are incapable. It's impossible for you. You can't do it. You know why? Because you're not. You're imperfect. How will you be able to save a world of imperfect people while being imperfect? It's impossible. That's why everything that goes on in the world, like war, crime, all the different bad things that we all know of, they happen because this world is governed by the imperfect. And Kendrick Lamar, as a Christian, probably came across the idea of finally really understanding that it's not up to him, it's up to God. And what you get to do is be a servant in that. You get to be a servant in spreading the word, spreading the gospel. And even if you are let's say, a weapon of war against the things that aren't that, that's what you get to be. However, this is not your responsibility. And Kendrick Lamar walked around with that responsibility for so long, and it weighed on him, and it held him down. And this is how you feel or end up feeling that you're not worthy of your achievements, because you're never going to get to the point where you can save the world. And if you stay in that mind frame, when will you ever feel worthy? There's nothing that you can do to feel like you've done enough. That's just the end. That's just the whole thing. And that's what Mr. Morale was about. And that's when we get to GNX and Man at the Garden. Oh my goodness. First of all, GNX is a complete switch in Kendrick Lamar's mind frame. And if you're really a Kendrick Lamar fan, you can tell, bro just looks more alive lately. He looks more alive. He looks happier. He looks more like within himself, right? He looks more confident and precise in what he's doing. Let's talk about Man at the Garden. This is the song where Kendrick Lamar finally accepts that he is worthy of everything that he wants. He doesn't have to prove it. He doesn't have to work to get it. He doesn't have to do anything to provide the fact, to provide the evidence that he is worthy. The respect and the accolades, lamping on the island watching Castaway. For every good person that passed away, sent 2.5 million on an average day. As somebody who doesn't have self-worth, do you understand how difficult it is to write things like this? For every negative situation, send me something positive, because I deserve it. When I heard this song, I was like, Kendrick claimed his self-worth within, probably after the Mr. Morale process, but within this album, he is telling you that he's claimed his self-worth. And even here, he finally takes the credit for what he deserves to take credit for. Yeah, I've been a good friend to you. I've been a good person for you. I was there when you didn't believe in you. That's why I deserve it all. I'm sitting here putting my effort in writing these songs, putting great music out there to influence the children, the next generation, etc. That's why I deserve it all, right? But then getting to the bottom of it and saying, pray for those who prayed against me, every reason why my ancestors sent me. Like, even with all the accolades, all the things that you do, at the end of the day, the grace of your heart, the mercy in which you display to your neighbor, this is what grants you the freedom to say, why don't I? Why don't I deserve this, and that? Especially if I'm willing to put in the work. Like, yes, of course, I'm a godly man, but I'm on earth and I should be able to receive these things as long as I stay within a godly manner. And even when he gets to the bottom of this verse, he's accepting the anger and the frustration with the fact that he did these things with integrity. He did it the right way he thought was the right way, right? The way that he thought nobody would be mad. And yet everybody was mad. And so he finally took control and said, you know what? Fuck it. You mad? Say less. You finna be even more mad. Because not only am I gonna keep succeeding because of where I am with my heart and my spirit, but I'm gonna also keep showing you the difference between me and the rest of y'all, bro. My fault, I'm getting in. But this is him taking pride in these things. And I love that for Kendrick Lamar. So these 3 Grammys he just won for Not Like Us, this is just the beginning. He's always received Grammys, don't get me wrong. But going on to the Super Bowl, they're going on to a tour, they're doing another album. Kendrick deserves all these things. And he finally recognizes that. And that's what Man at the Garden, overall, GNX is about. The Heart Part 6, like, I could do an even greater breakdown, but I just want to say, Kendrick, you do deserve it all. And everybody that's watching this video, you deserve it all too. Not because you do this, you do that, but because you're human, because you're here. And as long as you move in a way that's merciful and graceful in your heart, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody does. But with something greater than you, being humble, surrendering, being yourself, you're worthy of everything just because you're here. And Kendrick Lamar deserves to know that, and you deserve to know that. I deserve to know that as well. And that's why I had to make this video. Thank you to everybody that comes to my channel. Like, comment, subscribe. Much more content coming tomorrow. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I kind of ran through it, but I hope the message overall just got across, because that's the whole point. Love y'all. Stay tuned.